Hello and welcome to Meridian Music and Sound. This is episode number 7. Today we are going to speak about the effects of sound baths on the body. So you can follow us on YouTube and on Facebook and social media at Meridian Music Sound. My name's Stephanie and here is Claire.
So last time I think we introduced you to some of the instruments that we use during the sound bath, but we thought today it'd be nice to talk a bit more about what is happening in your body, what effect they do actually have. So there are two things that I always draw people's attention to at the beginning of a sound bath. The two main effects that are taking place in the body. One is the effect it has on your nervous system, and the other is your brainwave state. So maybe let's talk about the nervous system first, shall we?
Yeah, I'm very highly strung. As mentioned previously, I don't want to bring up it in every single episode because that's what people like me do. But I am neurodiverse and so experience a lot of deregulation of the nervous system, and it has very real physical impacts on my body. I think for many years I used to tense my shoulders so tight in the top of my back and didn't breathe properly. I didn't breathe from the diaphragm. I did shallow breathing, and so I used to have like regular panic attacks and or just lightheadedness, and I'd get into a state of panic running around the house doing chores. Like, why am I getting like worked up about this? But so I think the nervous system has a huge impact on how we feel within ourselves.
And you're dead right to highlight the fact that I don't think we often acknowledge it at all, or we don't think about that. It is a very physical thing. For me, it manifests as anxiety. So my manifestation of feeling like that within the body and the nervous system being in that state comes out as an anxious thing. So I kind of get where you're coming from, but in a different.
What are some of your physical symptoms?
Kind of butterflies in the stomach. Just that nervous, edgy feeling that at one point I lived with that for a whole year. I was permanently stuck in that.
Wow.
For a whole year.
Yeah.
Which is not good, really, because then that leads to other problems.
Yeah. And that does actually. Then it's kind of like a river overspilling, isn't it? And it kind of ends up that you have all these extra problems physically, because I used to find that I had intense shoulder and neck pain because I was always holding tension within my body. And this I mean, you could go and get a massage, but it was like a temporary fix. For an hour you'd feel better and then you'd be right back where you were.
Because that is a secondary symptom of what we're describing, which is the nervous system being stuck in that state. And I think because of the way we live our lives now, most people are in that state without realizing it. We're so overstimulated and we're so switched on all the time that we're kind of stuck. So what are we talking about specifically? Well, the nervous system has two states, basically. You've got a sympathetic state and a parasympathetic state. Now, the sympathetic state is what we're describing we were experiencing there. So it's when you are heightened, it's when you're really overstimulated, you're switched on, and your body is having a reaction to it because it's not really where we should be. We shouldn't be operating in that fight or flight mode. I'm sure many people have heard of that term.
And I guess it does have a use.
Yes,
but it's not supposed to be used over an extended period.
No.
It's supposed to be for those times when we need it and to access it, not to be something that for nearly a year you were living in.
Yeah. Because it's left over from our prehistoric evolution. It was designed for us to be able to escape the danger, to run away. And our bodies don't know, our brains don't know the difference between that real having to run away and our muscles are ready to go and all the rest of it, and just, watching a horror movie. We don't, body doesn't understand. So it puts us in this state, which, like we say, is heightened, and you get all these symptoms. The opposite of that is your parasympathetic, which is also known as the rest and digest state. So that's the state where you can actually relax and feel chilled, and you can release the tension from your muscles, and you don't get all these symptoms that are causing this distress. But yeah, we're not. That should be our default state. That's where we're digesting. That's where we're resting. But actually, we're not in that state as much as we think we are. So that's a great thing that can be achieved through sound and through music, is that there has been studies that show that it will bring you from that state, that sympathetic state, to the parasympathetic state quite quickly, actually. I mean, I know myself, I can because I've learnt a bit about this and kind of, tried to deal with things. It takes about 15 minutes for me. I can kind of measure it now.
Yeah.
If, that feeling of, to bringing it down, however I'm doing that, whether it's with sound or whether it's with meditation or whether it's with something else, breathing and all those things together. Yeah, I can kind of tell the difference now, which is great, and having that tool. But yeah, sound has been proven to do that.
Yeah, it's it's pretty powerful, isn't it? And I think there is something about putting that time in to regularly address these problems, because I think they're always ongoing in life. We always have things that we that pop up and suddenly change our schedule. Or I mean, I've had it today where an appointment that was supposed to be 10 minutes, I was sat in the waiting room for over an hour. And that's really really frustrating when you're self-employed, and
and it's having an effect on your body. I think we know that it's making our minds go, get frustrated and flustered, but it's the physical effect on the body that is it is something that you can deal with, but you have to acknowledge it first, and you have to kind of understand it, because it's that what we're talking about. That nervous system is a system in its own right that can't really be accessed through the brain. It's kind of a separate thing. That's why I think the sound works very well, because like we talked about with vibration previously, it's the actual physical vibration that is hitting your body. So it makes sense that sound can get to the nervous system, but we can't think our way out of these things. You can't think your way out of it.
And I think quite often we are in a state where our head is spinning. We're overthinking. We're really like, our brains are just going 100 miles an hour. And sometimes you need physical intervention to get out of that. I know sometimes when I try to meditate in those situations, it just doesn't work, because it's so far removed.
Yes. Yeah.
Having to try and focus on one thing when you've got lots of things in your brain, it just isn't always possible. I often have to go into meditation from something else, whether that's doing yoga, or whether that's listening to some calmer music, or trying to read or do something to bring me back down to that state.
Yeah, and that leads us very nicely onto the other big effect, which is the brainwave state. So when you're in that thoughts are going all over a million miles an hour state, you're in that, your brainwaves are in that active frequency, which, again, like we said about the nervous system, we need that, because it means we get out there and we do stuff and we get stuff done. So that's what's known as the beta state, where the frequency's higher. What the sound is able to do, if it's controlled in the right way, is to bring that brainwave frequency down into these deeper states. So below your beta state, you've got your alpha state, which is more kind of daydreamy, when your brain doesn't want to function so much, but you're still awake, you're still a bit more mellow in your thinking, which is good. And then below that, I've got to get these in the right order. I've been learning this. You've got the theta state. So the theta state is that really sleepy, when you're like half asleep I just love that state. Half asleep state, which is so good because it everything relaxes and everything is slowed down. And that's the state that you can get to in meditation. But like you said, getting there is difficult. So what's brilliant is sound can take you through that journey from the beta through to the theta state. And then of course below that you've got the delta, which is the sleep state.
I think definitely during your sound baths that I've been going to quite a few of them, and I know what you mean by that theta state of the in between where I'm not asleep, but I'm kind of dreaming, but not dreaming.
Yeah,
it's a really bizarre place, and it feels like time just moves. In this other,
there's no time disappears. You're kind of
it kind of just exists as in its own world. And I think it always makes me think about how we perceive time in a line, but actually time isn't a line. And this sort of otherworldly universal thing.
And it's kind of, unless you're really used to experiencing that. I mean, I wasn't until I started getting into this. You know, the only time I'd experienced that state was, you know, when you're trying to watch a film.
Oh, yeah.
This was classic me. I'd never see the end of a film because I'd always fall asleep. But like, there's that 10, 20-minute period before that where you know you're going to fall asleep and you're trying to keep your eyes open. It's that's the state. But when you're trying to do something, you're trying to keep yourself in the beta state. You're kind of fighting against it. So when I started listening to more sound bath music and soundscape music, I realized that after about 15, 20 minutes, I was going into that state, but I didn't want to fight it.
Yeah.
I wanted to be in that state. And like Steph's described, the time just disappears. It also feels like you can't really think. Even if you try and make yourself think, you can't, which sounds really odd if you're not used to experiencing it, but it's honestly the most wonderful state. And I don't think many people are aware of that. We're used to being awake and we're used to being asleep, and we're used to, you know, trying to get to sleep. But unless you're intentionally understanding that there's a different state between those two, you're kind of missing out.
Yeah,
is the way I now see it, because it's so nice to just really put yourself in that deep state.
And I think so much cool. happens within our brain in that time that we we don't know or understand. I mean, that's why we know sleep is so important, because our body and our brain does lots of repair work in that time. They also process lots of things, and this is like a semi-state that really helps with
I would say so,
and I think I know that's why when I came to meditation and when I started doing a lot more of that, I found that I didn't, when I was working on a project or something that I wasn't sure about and I couldn't really figure out why, or, you know, there was lots of things going on in my brain about it, I used to find that once I started doing meditation, I think answers used to come to me, not necessarily quicker, but just in a way that felt really
just kind of intuitive,
organized and intuitive, and it didn't feel like a struggle to make a decision. I felt like I'd already processed and I could make a decision very easily and with a strength and just that really intuitive gut feeling of, I know this is right for me, rather than constantly questioning. And I think that was something that I didn't realize I would get from
no, it's really interesting. I've not really thought about
meditation, but it's a really nice bonus.
It does make sense, because you're going more inwards, aren't you? You're tuning in more to your body, and you're tuning in more to your mind and how it's working. And I think if we don't ever look at those areas, we're kind of missing out on how we function. We're all in the outside world, and we need to be, but actually understanding your inside world and keying into these things which bring,
it develops so much self-esteem. I think it really develops that, because you're not only are you intentionally taking that time to value yourself and your body and your mind, but then also you're giving yourself time to come to decisions and to I think that intention just really sets things apart, doesn't it? That I value myself and I want to do this in order to be better for myself, but also in turn I can be better for other people.
Absolutely.
As well. I can have the space to help people and not feel resentful but be there in that moment with those people. And I think that's really special.
Yeah. But so I mean, it's amazing. I've just continually finding it amazing that this can all be brought about through sound and music, and but it's been really lovely to try and understand that on a more scientific level, because then it makes kind of sense what you're experiencing. But yeah, those two things, the change, the benefit to the nervous system, and the way you can control your brainwave state is just is fantastic, really.
Which of the instruments would you say is one of the ones that really works for you? Do you know yet?
I mean, if you were going to analyze the two things on the body level, I think it's the flute, because obviously as a flute player already, using the breath in that is a great connection for me. So probably if you were talking about which one do you connect with in the body, it's that one. In terms of I know the Tibetan bowls actually for me really can easily put me into that more theta kind of brain state. That is something to do. I think it's because they've got all these overtones, and I just find that sound very kind of drawn to their sound. So I suppose of all the instruments I've been exploring so far, it's those two for me. Have you got one that particularly you?
I think definitely the bowls. I love the bowls. I think the same as you. I think there's something about the hearing the waves move up and down. I think because there's so many overtones to them, but also you just hear this like a whirring, and like you can just I can't. How do you just have to hear it, don't you, to understand it
and feel it as well? You get such a vibration from those.
Yeah, I do like the gong. The gong for me, when we've experienced big gongs, that's definitely been something. It can be quite heavy. I think I like the bowls because they're not too intrusive. I think the gongs can be like, wow, okay, this is huge. But at the same time, I think I like that they're so big. I like doing things in extremes. So that's also probably one of my favorites. I'm excited to hear your new big bowl in action.
I've just acquired a new big bowl, so I'm getting used to it at the minute. No, that's
there must be a lot of arm work with that.
Well, I'm finding it quite hard to make it sing at the minute, but just striking it is quite impressive. And I think that's going to work well with the other bowls as well. So you've then got layers of these
different frequencies all sort of moving around.
Yeah.
Do you find you get more from doing the bowls yourself rather than hearing someone else do them?
Yeah, that's interesting. It's different, and I think it is probably more different for me at the minute because I'm conscious of getting used to doing it and conscious of having that space for other people, whereas obviously when I'm just listening to it, I've not got that awareness. But I'd certainly, last sound bath I did, I really thought I was feeling like I was tuning into the sound a lot more, and really understanding how the frequencies were working together. But I mean, I do still definitely get a benefit from it when I'm doing it from in a public sound bath. I can feel it at the end, definitely, but I don't know whether I'm quite going into those deeper brainwave states because I'm still having to
because you still have to be aware.
I'm still thinking, but that'll be interesting, I think, over time, because I think the more comfortable I am, the more I will probably allow myself to switch off a little bit more and make it really intuitive. So that maybe I'll end up in that state as well a bit more. But no, that's an interesting question. I certainly enjoy both. I certainly definitely enjoy both.
I guess it's just the journey of a performer, isn't it? And the journey of a musician.
And I think having already being a performer and a musician, I'm kind of that side of the brain kicks in. But it is very different. I don't feel like I'm performing so much, but you're right. I think that awareness is.
I suppose having people. I know obviously people are welcome to watch, but I think having people laid down and usually with their eyes closed, it almost gives you this sense that you're not performing in the same way that we're necessarily trained as classical musicians.
Yeah.
Because I know, like, even when I'm performing, I'm thinking about my face. Like, have I got too much of a resting face? Because, like most people, your resting face isn't always the nicest. So am I smiling enough? Am I putting enough of a neutral smile on while I'm playing? Am I moving my arms in the right way? Like, is this too much, too little? Like, do I look like I'm enjoying myself? Because that's the impression that I need to give the audience. You think a lot about what you're communicating to the audience, which is important, but also actually there's something quite maybe special about this kind of performing, because it's for you to feel and experience as well as your clients and your audience who are there. And because really you need to be you're not putting on a facade or a wall in the same way. Maybe there is something that's like, actually we are all here in the same space and I'm doing this for you and I need to get something from it as well, because maybe it's a bit disingenuous not to get anything from it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've got to try and make sure I'm in the right frame of mind and the right space to be able to do it. Because like you say, to me it wouldn't feel genuine and it wouldn't feel like it was coming from the right place. There's a big school of thought in sound healing that talks about intention. And I'm glad that I've kind of had that from the start, and I'm learning more about that, because it is a big thing. And maybe I think we'll probably do a whole maybe podcast on that, because it is about what you're trying to send out when you play these instruments. So it's more about that and less about what you just described, which is the performance visual element of it, which is different. It's certainly different, and it's a nice thing to explore. So it's all a journey.
I think that's what I'm learning from a lot of this, is that I think the older I get, the more I realise that everything is incomplete and that it is all a journey of exploration. And really it's a journey of exploration of yourself and how you relate to the world and how that impacts other people and
relating to yourself. I think that's what brings us back to what we're saying about, understanding the effects that the sounds are having on your body makes you think about what is going on in your body more, which it then has a wider impact, because you start to think, oh, how does this affect, how does what I eat affect me, and and all these other things. So it's I think it's great to talk about this and encourage people to just maybe consider it, because it can have a huge impact on your whole life. And the fact that it can come from just experiencing sound is incredible. So
well, you can see more about what we're up to and listen to our other episodes on whichever platform you're listening to. So we're on YouTube and Apple and Spotify. We're on Amazon as well.
No, not yet. But if people would like to hear it on a different platform, then do get in touch, because I'd be quite happy to set that up. At the moment we're just on the two main and YouTube.
And you can find us under Meridian Music and Sound. We're also on Instagram and Facebook and Meridian Music Sound.
I think they're all
it's all.
You'll find us. Search for us, you'll find us.
We'll speak to you soon.